From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay.
I have a lot of friends that call me and show me that they found the genes. They found out genes that come off our land.
Where does the cotton in your jeans come from? One company is making sure you know.
You wait on propane or you sit on your hands, I guess.
Propane issues are lingering in Iowa. We'll have an update ahead of the newscast.
Plus, a reality check from the president on tariffs in China.
I'd like to have a rollback. I haven't agreed to anything.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. We have lots to get to this morning, including important new crop numbers. But first, we now know farmers will receive a second round of trade aid payments before the end of the year. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue saying the second round of the Market Facilitation Payment, or MFP, installments have been authorized. The White House and the Office of Management and Budget clearing the round with the money likely to be given to farmers who applied later this month or December. Now, the second payment will total more than $3.6 billion.
I'd rather, market my grain and be able to put it in the ground and see that I can make a return on my investment, not sit here and hope and wish for a handout. Ultimately, we would like the MFP to be gone, but we'd like them to start agreeing and get the trade deal figured out.
The potential third payment is not a guarantee, but officials say it may be released in January. USDA Undersecretary Bill Northey saying last week during a presentation that there are hurdles in a potential third payment due to cash flow problems. And here's something interesting. Politico reports JBS has gotten $78 million in trade aid from the USDA. The Washington Post reporting it's received more money than any other U.S. pork producer. The company has about 60,000 employees and buys from more than 11,000 farmers. The House could vote on the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement as soon as this week. That's according to Democratic House Ag Committee Chairman Collin Peterson. In an exclusive interview with Pro Farmer, Peterson said House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wants to get the USMCA vote on the fast track. The USMCA working group has been meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer to negotiate changes to the trade agreement required to get votes from both sides of the aisle. Commodity markets continuing today to digest new crop numbers from USDA. Those were released on Friday. There was an initial jump in corn prices driven by another drop in expected yields. Now USDA putting November yield expectations at 167 bushels to the acre. That pulled production back to 13.6 billion bushels, down nearly 120 million from last month. USDA also reducing ethanol usage and exports. Now on the soybean side, yields were unchanged from October at 46.9 bushels to the acre. Soybean production also unchanged at 3.55 billion bushels. USDA, however, calling for a reduction in soybean crush and higher ending stocks. Analysts say these numbers are once again just a placeholder until the next report.
I like the word placeholder because the jury is out. 48% of the crop yet to be harvested as of last Sunday. And, you're going to run into this later planted corn now into the harvest. And so we've heard some positive results. People have been a little bit surprised at maybe some of the good yield out of this late planted corn. But we're also hearing the other side of that coin. Test weights down, moisture up. Slow drying, a lot of frustration out there, dealing with snow, wet fields. It's a long fall and it's getting longer.
On the stock side, ending stocks for corn are slightly lower than last month at 1.9 billion bushels. Soybeans were higher for the month at 475 million bushels. That's up 15 million, driven by that expectation for fewer soybeans to be crushed in the months ahead. But soybean stocks are still roughly half of last year.
There's only one other year in history that we've seen stocks to use in beans drop this much from one year to the next. There's been no year that I can find where we've seen this many bushels lost, from 1 billion bushels down to 400.
What was probably more interesting to me was maybe the world projected carryout numbers in corn down 6.6 million metric tons, or little over 2%, 2.26%. So, it's still a comfortable number, but that's headed in the right direction as far as providing support to the marketplace. And then soybeans, 95.4 million. That's about in line with what the market was looking for. But attention will now focus on South America. Remember, both Brazil and Argentina had a really good bean crop last year, so it'll take a repeat to keep that on tap.
The wheat outlook for November showed smaller supplies, reduced use here at home, and lower stocks. USDA expecting farmers to plant 45 million acres of wheat in the next year. Wheat ending stocks coming in at just over 1 billion bushels, down 30 million from last month. The wet harvest season playing a big factor in those numbers, and now it's the cold. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman joins us. Mike, if it felt cold last week, it's about to get even colder.
Yeah, and in fact, Clinton, if this were January, we'd probably be calling this the polar vortex, but it's not January. It's November, but it's still extremely cold. We're going to see below zero numbers as we head into the first part of the week for the northern plains. As you look at the jet stream, you can see it's basically a direct shot right off the Arctic Circle. The trough then deepens into the Great Lakes all the way into the southeast for Tuesday. And there's going to be places in northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, maybe even northern Louisiana, much of central northern Texas that go below freezing in this situation, which, some of these are going to be record-breaking numbers. You can see that trough moves away. There's another one kind of digging in. This will keep the cold air in most of the eastern two-thirds of the country, but not as extreme as we see early in the week. There's Thursday. As we head toward Friday then and into the weekend, it does kind of become a little more zonal, which means the extreme cold will back off somewhat as we head toward the end of this coming week. We'll have more in your forecast coming up in a little while.
All right, thanks, Mike. The second cold snap hits as the propane crisis in the Midwest grows. AgDay national reporter Betsy Gibbon has the latest from Iowa. Betsy, we're hearing reports that some producers may have to wait a week before they get access to LP gas in order to dry corn.
Well, Clinton, propane issues are still a problem in Iowa as harvest drags on.
Harvest is still rolling near Wilton, Iowa, with plenty of days left.
We didn't get things in time on the spring, so that delayed maturity in the fall.
The long harvest for many is creating some propane issues in the state. Walton called his supplier last week and has enough liquid propane to get by.
And they said, yeah, we can fill you just enough to get by kind of day to day.
But farmers are still trying at getting more liquid propane.
Since then, I called for gas again this morning. I said, man, if you can get me enough for another 24 hours, that'd be beautiful, because I got 26% corn in the drying bin that isn't going to keep if I don't dry it. And they said they'd do their best.
Wilton says most of the moisture content in his corn is ranging in the mid to upper 20s, not ideal to take to the elevator and suffer losses.
We may just do a little at a time and kind of wait on it and see what happens, see if this propane thing kind of works its way out. But we don't have any great options right now.
And this area in Iowa is cold to start the week with highs in the 20s, with farmers saying it's pretty hard to dry frozen corn. Reporting in eastern Iowa, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
And producers working around the clock in some cases to bring in what they can from the field before more snow and cold hit. Josh Schick posting this video on Twitter. Watch the toss here, and it's good. Josh farming in Gridley, Illinois, north of Bloomington, saying he just didn't want to stop in order to grab his sandwich. All right, well, as we focus on finishing 2019, analysts say don't forget to look at 2020. We'll look at opportunities for pricing next year coming up. And later, a couple that grows cotton and the company that makes sure everyone knows it in the country. Traders liked what they saw in the report when it came to corn, at least for a little while. Here's more on how we're starting the week when you see me.
Soybeans were lower. That bearish crop report really kind of hit the soybeans hard. Domestic and global numbers were more than expected, and it dropped about 10 cents. You know, after being close to unchanged earlier in the day, we were hoping that maybe something good might come out of it, but nothing doing. Right now, the focus now moves to the harvest. And after that, there really isn't much to give this market much of a lift unless we get some kind of news of a trade deal, and so far that's not looking very good at this point. Corn was also higher. Those world stocks were lower than expected, really gave the market a boost. It stayed up 5 or 6 cents and was relatively strong right now. We can start looking at some of these support numbers to see if this market can hold. Otherwise, we might see a little bit of leakage in all the grains to start to slip a little bit lower.
Jim McCormick, agmarket.net, our guest today. Jim, let's talk about 2020, because even though we're in the throes of 2019, there may be some opportunities to start thinking about hedging or making some buys out there in 2020.
Yeah, what we're doing a couple different things. We've got some customers that are just selling futures. They're saying, hey, 405, 410, that's a very good price to start. If that's my worst sell of the year, let's do it. The other thing we're looking at using is the June short-dated options. These are essentially letting you buying options that are priced off the December 20 contract, but you're not buying as much time. So we're buying some June options. They'll go off after we get the May WSDA report. And the reason why the May WSDA report is important is that's when they're going to give us the first balance sheet of using trend yield and probably a bigger acreage by all estimates. So we're probably looking at a very ugly balance sheet when that first one comes out. So we want to get some protection done. Those June options will do it. Another idea we actually are doing is kind of killing two birds with one stone. We're buying some old crop corn calls, like March calls, to kind of re-own this year's crop, and we're selling some short-dated calls to kind of finance it. So if the market does go up, you're going to be re-owning grain on the board with calls. On the other hand, you're going to get some better cash sales for 2020 if those calls get exercised.
Yeah. Do you think this year has been more complicated than past years as far as trying to manage and work your way through some of the decisions here?
Oh, I definitely think it has been. I mean, the reports have been very chaotic. You know, we had this wet spring. It took a while. Then the market just exploded higher. Then it collapsed. You throw in the China trade issues. I swear, it seems like that's every day it's a different story, and the market is just not certain which way to go. So our best goal is to try to get producers out there and get back to not in a speculating mode, but in a hedge mode. And say, look, when I can make money on my farm, we want to help you build that, build that revenue base up and lock in those profits.
Yeah, it takes discipline, though.
It takes definitely discipline.
All right, well, appreciate the advice. Thank you, Jim. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
To contact Jim McCormick at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Meteorologist Mike Hoffman taking a look at rainfall over the past week. And Mike, not as much rain on this map as we've seen in previous weeks.
Yeah, when you get cold air, it tends to kind of limit the amount of moisture, and that's going to be the case this coming week as well. But you can see, if you go back during this past week, basically last Saturday through this past Friday, you can see there was a band of decent moisture in some areas that needed it, like north central Texas, northwest Texas, not the Panhandle obviously, but south of there. You can see some decent amounts did fall with 1 to 2 inch, maybe even 3 inch amounts in places south of Lubbock there, stretching on up into southeastern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, far southern portions of Missouri. Farther north then, it was more of a lake effect, so this would have been the moisture content of the snow that fell in many cases across the Great Lakes, and it wasn't huge amounts obviously, but it did add some moisture to things. Now the root zone moisture continues to show very wet conditions most of the Mississippi Valley into the Northeast, Great Lakes, all the way back across the northern plains into most of Montana, northern Wyoming. Dry conditions continue in the desert Southwest, especially the Four Corner region. And you can still see there are some pockets, but those pockets did get some moisture over the past week. So that was some good news there in west central Texas and a few spots up and down the eastern seaboard down into Florida. But a lot of those places have at least improved somewhat over the past couple of months as things have gotten a little bit wetter. Still some dry conditions, a drought monitor in the southeast, also west central Texas, south Texas. Takes a while to get rid of the drought in the Four Corner region. Here's the jet stream as we head through this week. There's that shot of Arctic air. Kind of goes away a little bit. It gets reinforced there as we head through Thursday and Friday, and then things do level off. But look at that. Another trough digging into the Great Lakes in the east as we head into the early part of next week. So temperatures this week definitely below normal. Most areas east of the Continental Divide, above normal west. And with that cold air below normal for much of the country, from the Ohio Valley all the way to the west coast, the only above normal area in the far southeast. 30-day outlook for temperatures, kind of more of the same, below normal for most areas east of the Continental Divide, South Florida, the west, above normal. Precipitation then, the northern plains, the northeast, below normal, as well as the northwest, above normal, though I'm going from the Tennessee Valley back into Texas. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Santa Fe, New Mexico. First of all, mostly sunny and chillier, high of 48 degrees. Devils Lake, North Dakota, partly sunny, breezy, and cold, high only near 10. And then you can take a look at Lake City, Florida. Pleasant, times the sunshine, high around 80.
Coming up, Machinery Pete puts an old wives' tale to rest.
Used tractors are just worth less money down south, right, Pete? Now hold your horses there, folks. I think we need to talk about this.
To help achieve your personal best yield, try Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans.
Does location really matter in the used machinery market? Machinery Pete puts one old thought to rest.
Used tractors are just worth less money down south, right? Well, now that thesis has been around since I started compiling auction prices 30 years ago, but I gotta tell you folks, I'm finding this to be less true these days. Now let's talk about some examples. Here's a picture of a 2016 Case IH Magnum 380 CVT. This thing had 1,203 hours on it. Sold on an online auction October 2nd in Southwest Georgia, and it went for $156,500. Now you can't get much more south than Southwest Georgia. And the fact is, folks, $156,500, that's the second highest auction price I've seen in the last 2 years on a Magnum 380 CVT. Now here's a picture of the only higher one. This was a 15 model with 1,343 hours on it that sold February 20th of this year. Online auction in Northeast Colorado, went for $161,500. So again, I think today it's more about condition than location. Now if we go to the other end of the spectrum, here's a picture of a 2010 John Deere 8295R, 5,535 hours on it. Now this sold on a farm auction in Southwest Alabama September 14th, and it went for $66,000. Now that is the third lowest auction price I've ever seen on the John Deere 8295R. But my point is, I don't think it sold for $66K because it sold in Alabama. I think it sold for $66K because of the condition it was in.
All right, thanks, Pete. Connecting the farm to fashion. How some Texas cotton farmers are really getting their names out there. Next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
One famous gene maker is putting cotton farmers front and center. Our friends over at Texas Farm Bureau have the story of one farming couple that now have their names right inside the genes.
The Wrangler Rudy collection launched in the spring, and so far it's met with great success. I think most every cotton farmer has always wished to have, man, I'd love to have a shirt or a pair of pants or something that I know I grew and came off my farm. And it's really satisfying. I'm the 5th generation in West Texas to grow cotton. Never wanted to be anything else but a farmer. Farming cotton is my passion and what I enjoy.
This is pretty much our little paradise. We're in a kind of like a little valley that have water. We have subsurface irrigation. You know, we've been farming together since we met in 2010.
You know, it's common all over the country to have farmers markets, and growers can go sell directly to the public, and the public can put a face with the grower and with the product. For cotton guys, it's been difficult. Now we're finally to a point that we can do that and introduce the general public to who we are, what we do, and what our passion is to do it, and the good job we're doing.
In the gene, in the inside pocket, is our brand. The Wrangler have the Texas brand in there with Vance and Mandy Smith from Texas. So that's how they would know who the grower is, and our story is in there as well. They try to have a connection with the public to see where this cotton comes from, how it's grown, and hopefully they see how much effort goes into this cotton that we plant. I have a lot of friends that call me and show me that they found the genes. They found our genes that come off our land. We are just normal cotton farmers. We're just plain people down to earth. For other people to wear our product and know that they wear it, it gives me a pride and it wants me to do better. And I can see the end product finally, and it's quite exciting.
And we thank Texas Farm Bureau again for sharing that story. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your week with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.